Welcome to RI University 101.
Today we're going to talk about wall-to-wall, which we have like a new procedure which you've all been introduced to, and now we're just going to recap it, get it on video, elaborate on a couple more details on it, and it should be a quick one. So I went ahead and brought up the page that you guys have all seen before. So you guys know in a situation like when it's just the back credenza, a desk unit like that, we're keeping the 1-inch gap on the one side, always. That'll be your overhead unit and everything. If this is wall-to-wall overheads, there'll be a gap and everything over on that side. In situation 2, this surface is going to be made a couple inches longer and cut in the field and edge banded in the field. The reason it's this surface and not like one of these, or it's done this way, is because it will do less damage to the wall. If you were to make this surface like this way, then you risk damaging like that whole section of the wall. In situation 3 down here, then it would be this surface and this surface that get the scribe cuts. And design knows the appropriate charges to add on to those surfaces for the scribe cut and the work that's being done in the field. If you run into a problem with your client and they're still not happy because no matter what, walls are wavy. So there are options to still hide. You can add backsplashes, you can add tack boards, but those will not be something free of charge. It's your responsibility to let the client know that there could be waves, there could be imperfections in the wall, and that's not ROI's responsibility to cut a wavy surface. So you could add backsplash and tack boards. It's just going to be a separate quote and a separate install. Is everybody okay with that? Feel good about it?
Now, if you add backsplashes, there will be wall-to-wall, but if you order a tack board, it's going to be a 1/2 inch gap on each side. So just keep that in mind.
So now, if we go to measuring wall-to-wall, I want to first suggest that if you are a salesperson and you have a lot of wall-to-wall, make sure your designer knows that you need a field measure, because the most important thing is to have it field measured by Miguel. So make sure that charge gets applied to your quote. A good tip is to measure at surface height. So in this case, we measure at the 36-inch height. And then I always like to do 2 snaps. I like to snap it in the front, like where the surface steps, and I like to snap it in the back. Because you'd be surprised, it usually ranges by a 1/4 inch to up to a 1/2 inch range from those steps. And then I kind of, when I get the field measure, I kind of take the worst one of the 2. But if I get those, typically we don't, but when I like to do that when I'm measuring wall to wall, and I think it's a good tip.
Don't go too high or too low because the wall might be this way too. So try to be at the level that the work surface is going to be installed, either desk height or standing height.
And always be aware of just your surroundings. Look for windows, radiators, all that good stuff. And then lastly, we never discussed in the previous procedure meetings that what if you had a wall-to-wall overhead unit? Well, in those cases, the surfaces are going to be the exact same way that we're doing. So the surfaces are always going to be flush. So like in this case, we would still do everything here with the cutting of this surface. But what we're going to do in these cases is there will be a 1/2 inch gap with the tack board and the overhead, and a 1/2 inch gap over here with the tack board and the overhead. So the surface will go wall to wall, the tack board and the overhead will not.
Custom size overheads and tack boards.
Yes, you can.
Now, sometimes it will be required once in a while that the customer wants handles on the overhead, then the gap will be bigger because you need to allow bigger fillers for the handle not to damage the wall. Because our hinges are 110-degree opening, so keep
So in
that
those
in mind.
cases, you might even want to do a filler or something too.
Yeah, like 1.5 to 2 inches filler has to be on each end so the handle doesn't hit the wall.
You can always do a filler on your overhead, but you can't do a filler on the tack board.
Right.
So the tack board always has to be, recessed in. Does anybody have any questions?